Good morning. You're listening to WNHHLP 103.5 FM, New Haven's home for community radio. I'm Mubarakah Ibrahim, and this is Mornings with Mubarakah, streaming live from the Beaver Hill section of New Haven, Connecticut. We are your place for hyper-local radio. We talk about national issues from a local level through a lens of diversity here on the show. And today we are going to talk about everything that's going on in the world and a little bit of reflection of being Black women in America. And as you know, I'm Mubarakah Ibrahim. This is my daughter, Salwa Abdul Sabor. And we've had a lot of family discussions about the things that have been going on in terms of the death of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, the protests, the presidential response, the Antifa interventions or involvements. There's so much to unpack. Yesterday, I participated in Blackout Tuesday. So as you know, I am a huge social media person. And when I saw the opportunity to participate in just a full blackout day, I participated. And I know that the point of the day was not for Black people to not engage in social media, but something happened when I put that black square. Like, I felt a sense of relief, and I decided that for me, that I was not going to engage for 24 hours. So I needed that break. My spirit needed that break. And I didn't realize that probably until halfway in the day. And I was like, because if I'm not posting, I'm not on, right? And so I realized halfway through the day that I can actually take a deep breath, because the events have been coming so quickly and evolving so rapidly. It's as if we don't have an opportunity to take a deep breath. So today's June 3rd. It's been a little over a week since the horrific broadcasted death of George Floyd, and it has ignited a fire. So I think we're going to have an interesting discussion because we are discussing it from two perspectives. So I always tell people this when they hear conversations with me and my family members, be it my children or my husband, is that we all have very different outlooks on the way things are, the way things they should be. And we also have two different generations. And so I think that our perspectives are very different, and we definitely have a different outlook on life. So, Salwa, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me, young lady.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I'm just raving. I'm sorry.
You gotta talk up just a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
So the first point of discussion is, have you watched the video of George Floyd?
No, I did not watch the full video of George Floyd. I was forced to watch it because of how much it was posted on the news. You know, when I'm on my timeline, I can just like speed past it. I think I saw the first couple seconds and I was just like, I'm not gonna watch it. Why would I watch just something that horrible? I feel like we're so desensitized. We're so desensitized to death and Black death and murder and just viewing on our TV screens, whether that be a movie, TV show, or whatever. But that's real life. Like somebody's life was literally lost in those moments. Their soul was literally left from their body in those moments. And so for me, as much as if I was seeing it in real life, it's just as traumatizing seeing it on my phone when I wake up in the morning. And so seeing the news channels like play over and over and over again. And the only reason why I knew that he called for his mother was because Black folks were saying it in their speeches and saying it inside of their you know, in their proclamations. And when I listened to it on the news, I didn't hear him call for his mother. And I think that adds another layer of just, you know, it just adds another layer to it.
Mm.
That isn't being shown.
I still haven't even brought myself to watch Ahmaud Arbery's video.
Yeah.
I have not watched that. I have not. And the same like you, I've seen the clips because it's been just shared so many times, but I try to scroll past. I mean, even when I'm on social media, if I want to read the post, I will scroll the top of the words to the top of my screen. So I'm not actually looking or watching the video because it is very traumatizing. As the mother of Black boys and Black nephews and a Black husband, it is traumatizing for you to see that happening to someone who could be your son, could be your husband. And what I think what makes it more traumatizing in cases like this is you can't even say, oh, my son would never do that, so like it would never be him. Or, you know, these are people who are killed innocently, and so it could literally, like, our kids know their father was a police officer. They don't resist arrest, be respectful, all of these things, but that still won't save their lives.
Right.
Because even when Black men do all of these things, they are still killed indiscriminately. And so it is really troublesome when you have and you love Black men and you know that their life is in danger. So from your perspective, what was different? So we know we have been doing this forever, for a long time. We know that Black men have been killed innocently by police, beaten innocently by police forever. But what was the difference between, so this is, I think, a very interesting turning point because there's something different about this particular uprising. And I don't call it a protest. I call it a resistance. I call it an uprising.
Yes, it is.
We were upset with Tamir Rice and beaten. We were upset with Trayvon Martin and we marched. I mean, back, you know, young. 30 years ago, you were young, but before you were born, there was Rodney King in California. I remember that, right? When I was, I think I was like maybe a preteen or something like that. And people were upset and people marched, but this lit an international fire. What do you think is the difference between this and some of the other things? Why did this create such an outrage?
You know, I think because it's a pandemic. It's a pandemic. That's why. Because Black people still getting killed in a pandemic. That's the difference. I think that there's so, like, I think that baffles me. I think that's like the new joke. Not like it's like joke, a playful joke of the house and my friends. And it's like, oh, you doing that? It's a pandemic. What you doing that for? And so when you have people sheltered in place and, you know, you're asked to shelter into place for the safety of others and the health and safety of others, and Black people are still getting killed by the police in a quarantine pandemic. And Black people are still disproportionately affected in the healthcare system and dying more than any other race. If not, I think I saw a chart was saying that white people was like, there was like a more percentage and there was like a huge percentage for Black folks, but you know that there isn't that many percentage of Black folks in America. So when we're disproportionately affected and it says, oh, 28%, that's 28% or compared to the number. I'm not a mathematician, but you already know what it is. Healthcare, we're disproportionately affected in the healthcare system. So when a Black person, when they're in the beds and they're choosing who they're gonna save in COVID, who are they gonna actually put together, who are they gonna resuscitate, they ain't choosing Black bodies. So I think that's what it is. And I remember hearing one of the activists that I've been following talk about like you're asking people to do these things, but you're not even providing them the basic safety, care, health, mind, body stuff that they need. Food. White people love statistics. I think we are going to be so shook at the statistics that come out about food insecurity after the pandemic, about I can't even go down the list, bro. Like housing, the evictions that are a wave of evictions that are about to happen that's going to disproportionately affect Black and brown folks. So
do you think all of those things contributed
all of those things? Yeah.
So I think that when I look at the pandemic, one of the reasons why I believe that it is because people are not at work. They're not at school. They are literally just home watching TV on the internet. I believe Mark Zuckerberg, he did a press conference about a month ago now. And he said that Instagram lives are up 1,000%. Facebook usage is up. I think it was like 78%. Instagram is up. Like people don't have anything to do but watch. And so whereas in the past, someone could have said, oh, well, I didn't see the video. Oh, well, I didn't know that was happening. Well, I heard something about that, but I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning. My schedule is I get up at 6 o'clock. I'm at work by 9. After work, I got to cook dinner and put my kids to bed and blah, 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 blah. And they can go an entire day and only get an hour or so on the computer. But in the pandemic and stay-at-home environment that we're in, there's no excuses for you not to have seen what was going on.
Right.
The other thing that I think that is really interesting that that is a point of discussion is with what everything is going on. So here is the silver lining that I have seen. There are more white people upset than ever before. There are more white people involved than ever before. And I'm not just talking about the Antifa people or people who are trying to sabotage
small percentage.
Sabotage the protests. But I'm talking about white people who are literally upset. I've had white friends DM me and say, I can't stay silent anymore. Do you know an organization that I can get involved in, an organization of white people? Why do you think that that's going to make a difference?
Oh, yeah.
How and why?
I think that is going to make a difference because like I was listening to before, when we went to these protests, most of the time it was the folks who were affected disproportionately by police brutality and not disproportionately because it shouldn't be happening anyway, but were affected by police brutality. And now white folks have no choice but to sit with themselves and look in the mirror and see how they contribute to the system, how they contribute to the oppression, whether that be by being silent, whether that be by being complacent, whether that be by making jokes, whatever it is. And so yeah.
So how is that going to make a difference, though?
How is that going to make a difference
from your perspective? In
the privilege
she's 21. This is a millennial generation versus my 44. So I just want to know
how is it going to make a difference? How do I think it's going to make a difference? Because we can't do this fight with just Black folks. We can't do that. This is not this. I think that people often get misconstrued about the movement, and for me, I feel like the ultimate goal is that we all just want our humanity to be recognized, and we all want to get to a place where it doesn't have to be about race. And that movement requires for everyone to show up, because if Black lives don't matter, all of our lives don't matter. It doesn't. So how are we showing up for the burning house fire in the midst of all these houses that's not burning down? You know what I'm saying? So it's important because you're also using your privilege as well. Black folks, when they are screaming and saying, hey, bro, we're dying, why are you doing this? oh, you're just an angry Black woman. Oh, you're just being extra. Oh, what are you talking about? LOL, that was 400 years ago. Blah, 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 blah. Then when you have white folks being like, actually, this is serious. You need to stop. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, I've never heard so many white people go off for Black lives in my entire life, and probably my mom's lifetime too. Honestly, we sit and we listen to a police commission where white folks was going off for 8-9 hours, and they had to sit there and listen. It was like, so it's such a powerful, and I wonder, what if it was just Black folks protesting in America? Would it have caught the fire that it did across the country?
No, absolutely. I have always looked
across the
globe. Right. I completely agree with you. I don't think that it is going to be a fight that Black people are going to win on their own, because we have seen that we have been marching over and over and over again. Black and brown people have been marching, and all we have is pictures of us marching. Right. And the same thing keeps happening over and over again. But historically, when I look at when we look at the history of change in America, most of the change is not initiated until two things happen. White people are affected, or money is affected.
Yes, that is correct.
All of the sit-ins in the South trying to get rid of desegregation were ignored until white children from the North went to the South and they were killed. Then the white community became enraged. Then they said, we have to desegregate the South. We have to pass laws. Sitting in for Black and brown folks at counters did not desegregate. And I know people will argue with me about this, but if you look at the timeline, sit-ins by Black and brown people did not desegregate the South. The white young people who went down there to stand with Black and brown people getting killed is what lit the fire. Even when we talk about things like desegregating the transportation, it wasn't Black people complaining that they had to go to the back of the bus. It was Black people saying, we're not giving you our money and getting on the bus if we can't have equality. The bus system was about to collapse. The transportation system was about to collapse because Black people refused to give them their money. So the change has to come, in my opinion, by those two ways. First, we do need laws. We do need legislation to make the change stick, but it's not going to be initiated until white people join and we affect their bottom line. And it can't be a one-time thing. So the important thing that I think that people have to remember is joining inside of the fight for equality is not about going to a march. Now, we talk about this and debate about it all the time. We literally have full-fledged arguments in our house. Selwa is the social justice advocate. She is at every march that she can get herself onto. But this last one that we've had this week, I'll be honest, and I'm okay with being transparent, we actually asked her not to go because in our family, we have had a wonderful silver lining. My son and his wife had a baby last week. So I am a grandma for the first time. She's an auntie for the first time. We have been strictly social distancing in anticipation of the new life and new generation in our family.
Beautiful.
And so we did not attend any of the marches because we did not want to in any way jeopardize us getting sick or the baby getting sick. And so we did not participate for that main reason. But I will also be transparent. I'm not a marcher. Why do you march?
Why do I march? It's a show of solidarity. I think that I march to put my body out on the line, like a lot of people put their bodies out on the line, to show solidarity, to show unification, to send a message. I think we sit in our house too much, and I think we don't have the opportunity to unite over a cause on a regular basis. When do we get to come together besides, you know, parades and things like that to unite under one cause? And when you have an injustice, and like, imagine, I just keep thinking about Donald Trump looking outside his White House and seeing a sea of people saying justice, 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 angry, all this stuff. He got all these, you know, military folks, all these police officers in front of him trying to protect, and he's just looking out and seeing an endless sea of people. That's why we march. And then that endless sea of people gets seen in New York, in Pennsylvania, in London, in Australia, in Berlin. And you know what I'm saying? Like, so that unification, you unify other people under one cause. You have people marching in the streets, and it's not just because the argument is, oh, people just march and that's it. No, because what happens at the march is that you get vital information that you wouldn't otherwise get on social media, that you wouldn't otherwise have access to due to the censorship that happens on social media often. I've been in marches where it's like, okay, do you know about this organization? Follow this organization on Instagram. Follow this organization. This is the website you go to for this, what, et cetera, et cetera. So you were also able to connect with organizers and get the information firsthand from Black leadership as to what to do and what to support. Because the problem with Blackout Tuesday yesterday was that it just didn't make sense. And I even heard from other people, from organizers who I had asked other organizers who's organized it, and they were like, this actually conflicts with what we're doing, because actually an announcement was just made that the military are going to dominate, and also this election day. Why are we blacking out on election day? So, you know what I'm saying? So, that's why we march.
So one of the, so just as a side note, I have a question pertaining to marching, but one of the things about Blackout Tuesday is I think that a lot of people misunderstood it.
Yeah.
And they did it the way that I did it, which was not the way that it was intended to be done, but
white folks don't need to do that. Mommy's Black, okay? Okay, she can do it 24 hours.
I needed,
you know.
But I had a whole lifetime to do that because I needed just a break. I needed a spiritual break.
Yeah.
So we were not supposed to just black out and not post at all. We were supposed to actually post everything pertaining to being Black, both good and bad, letting people know the struggle, the triumphs, just all Black. And so that the reason why that is because oftentimes people are on social media just doing, you know, they're random, hey, this is a selfie of me and, you know, always come out with sunshine on the other side quotes, right? But that wasn't the purpose of the Blackout Tuesday. It was really about, and so posting about the fact that some states were voting, posting about all of that would have been a part of the Blackout Tuesday.
Right.
So I think a lot of people misunderstood what they were supposed to be doing. For me, even though when I attempted to go back and say, okay, well, let me post something, I was like, nah, I really feel like I need this 24 hours. Oh, yeah. And I think that,
so why don't you march?
Why don't I march? I don't march because I feel like in order for me to feel as if I've done something effective, I need to see the outcome, the result of what I'm doing. And I don't feel like marching gives me any type of visible or tangible results. Yes, it helps people feel unified. Yes, it helps you to understand that you are not alone, but all of those things are feelings. And that's just the type of person I am. Now, do I think that we need a world without marching? No, I think marching is appropriate. Sometimes it lights the fire to get people to take action. But I don't feel like I need to be at a march for my fire to be lit.
That's valid.
So I don't march because I feel like I can be effective in other ways. I remember I attended after, I believe it was after the death of Trayvon Martin, and I may be incorrect. There's been so many. We had a community meeting and I actually spoke up.
I can learn to understand you much better if I can get familiar with the way you talk.
And the people was like, you need to get out there, blah, 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 blah. And I kind of got a little attacked. And an elder of our community, I will always remember her. Her name was Miss Lacey. And she said, nope. She said, she came to my defense. She said, let the walkers walk and let the talkers talk, because everybody got a job to do. So everybody, and I took that and I thanked her so much afterwards, because it was really a moment for me to reflect and say, okay, what is my particular gift that I could use in the movement, right? Me walking, yelling, and screaming is not my gift. It's not my thing, right?
That's valid.
Part of the reason I think that it's not my thing, and I've realized this over the last couple of years, is I get very emotionally exhausted, particularly dealing with non-Black people who want to put the burden of explaining and solving racism on Black people's shoulders. So I get literally exhausted. I actually was on a board in New Haven and I resigned because every time I would go to a meeting and I would come home, I would physically be exhausted from dealing with anti-Blackness, sometimes blatant, what I felt was blatant racist statements. I actually resigned from the board because I said, if I have to come home and take a 2-hour nap after dealing with a room of people who are good-meaning white people, then that's not where I need to be. I really admire people who have the emotional endurance and fortitude to be at the front of the fight dealing with racism and whiteness within white circles. But I know that that is not how I can contribute to social justice, because I don't have the emotional fortitude for that.
Can I just say that I need you and we need you in the movement? I think that oftentimes during these marches and things like that, we see young people and young Black folks like leading the thing and doing the thing. But I think that there's like this millennial thing of like, okay, boomer, not that you're like in a boomer era.
Wait a minute.
I'm not saying that you are okay, boomer.
No,
I'm saying that
I am not a boomer.
It is okay, of course not. But I think that there hasn't been a shown of intergenerational solidarity. I think there's been a lot of, young people, I've been doing this before you was born and you out here doing it. And it's like, all right, cool. But like, how are you using your wisdom? How are you using your privilege? How are you using your access? Like there's a lot of Black officials. There's a lot of in the city, in this state, who has the privilege and the access to do and the knowledge to make policy change, and now more than ever have the opportunity to be listened to and to really make a shift and have people rally behind them. And I think that it's important that you are showing solidarity during this time and showing that, hey, I've been preparing my whole life, or my whole career has been prepared for this moment, for me to be able to have the knowledge, the privilege, the access to really finally, when before people didn't really care about Black lives, nobody knew nothing, and it was a pandemic. Now it's a pandemic. White people are asking me what's going on with it. When I walk into Hartford now, and I see the lady at the front desk who's white, and she look at me like, oh my God, it's a Black official. Wow, I see your Blackness, like in a different way. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
it also needs to be reciprocal. So one of the complaints that I hear, particularly, and because we're talking about national issues on a local level, is one of the complaints that I've heard from older generation of social justice advocates in New Haven and Connecticut in particular is that the younger people don't come to them and ask for their wisdom.
But we
and
can't
the younger
find you.
people actually ignore them. No, even when the younger people who are leading these efforts know who they are, they know who to go to, they know who have been in the fight since the beginning.
I think this unveils
so I think that
a lot of tension.
So this is the communication
in the Connecticut community around
so
activism.
This is the communication issue between young people and older people. And I am not going, and I'll be honest, I'm not that person to come to because it is not something that I've been doing since I was little. Like I said, you know, my social justice thus far have really been about the written and the spoken word, right? I write articles, I have the radio, I post on social media. A lot of people will say, well, what does that do? When you have a following of over 500,000 people, then it does make a difference. I feel
and then
like
also you have like the privilege of palatability. Not saying that you're palatable, but like I'm saying that like I've noticed that I think it's a gift to be able to be appealing to the masses, or like being able to like talk
people
to
to be able to relate.
Yes, like literally appealing to the masses. And so I feel like you have that quality, and that is useful in the movement. Not saying that you're not useful, but like that is a useful quality. You've been useful. Like just being, all you gotta do, what's that? When I was watching Black Sisters, and she was like, all I gotta do is be Black and die. And I just remember saying that, and Abu say that, and just being like, yo, that's real. Like you being Black.
Unfortunately,
it's protest. Just being alive. You are the culmination of every ancestor.
That sounds nice, like, but honestly, it's really not.
Okay,
like, we have to do more than just be Black. Okay, so let's talk about. So we're already halfway done through the show. So I want to definitely get in. I always like to talk about solutions, right? Yeah. Sometimes we get on the show and we're talking about problems, and it seems like the whole world is going to hell in a handbasket. But when it comes to solutions, so for me, again, as someone who is older, I feel like we have to do something other than march. And rioting is not the thing. I understand rioting. I completely agree with the statement of Martin Luther King that it is the language of the unheard, because peaceful protests have not created change. Kaepernick took a knee and he got fired. So peaceful protest is not what creates change. I think at some point you have to, I'm not saying that you have to destroy property, but you have to affect their bottom line. Be it the second Blackout Tuesday, which is July 7th, where all Black people are asked not to spend money. I would extend that to everyone else. Like, it shouldn't just be Black people, even though our Black dollar is very valuable part of this economy. It should be something that everybody participates in, that we can speak with our dollar. We know that during the time of apartheid in South Africa, the global movement of divestment is what initiated and helped move along the change of getting rid of apartheid in South Africa. The dollar speaks louder than our cries, unfortunately, because we're not just in a capitalist America. Countries are capitalism, function on capitalism within themselves as capitalist units. So we have to start thinking about that. What I want from your generation, how do you see what white people need to do?
No.
And let me excuse me.
But the gun's already pointing at you.
Also say non-Black people, because Black people are discriminated against. White supremacy is definitely a problem in America. So is anti-Blackness from Arabs, anti-Blackness from Pakistani and Indian, anti-Blackness from Asians, right? They come to our communities and they take our money, but then they have no interest in contributing to our communities' overall wellness.
Just thinking
so I think that how do those communities, in your view,
I would say first and foremost, I'm not going to tell people how to protest. I think that, you know, it is what it is, honestly. So, you know, whatever makes effective change, by any means necessary, in the words of Malcolm X, not me. I'm not, other than that, I would say that what Black and brown folks need
what non-Black
and brown folks need to do. And
right, what do they need to do in order?
I got overwhelmed.
So we're happy that we are happy that they have joined the movement now. Okay. Whereas before, their involvement in the movement was very scarce.
Oh yeah.
Now that they've joined the marches, what do they do when they go home?
I think that continue to join the marches. I think that one of the things that I really need to see is API solidarity with Black lives, and I've seen some of that, but I haven't seen enough of it. And I'm glad to see a lot of white folks out there. I'm glad to see a diverse group of people, but I really need API folks to also stand up in that sense, because one of the officers—
What's
API is Asian and Pacific Islander.
Okay.
One of the officers is API. And I think that it's important during this time for this to show that solidarity. I think non-Black and brown folks brown folks and, you know what I'm trying to say, donate to Black organizations. Give me money, period. Reparations on lock, all right? I put a list of organizations in front of me because I knew that we'd probably get to this point where we talk about stuff. I think that we could talk in general a lot, but in terms of focusing in and honing in on Connecticut, People Against Police Brutality is an organization that's been organizing marches, protests, accountability for the police for as long as I can remember as an organizer. Get connected with them. I'm not sure if they have a website, but I'm pretty sure they have an Instagram. Connecticut Bail Fund.
Can we just list them instead of giving their bios?
Oh yeah, no, Connecticut Bail Fund. There are a lot of people getting arrested, Waterbury, all this stuff. So like different police departments, they be bugging. So
the other thing that I'm gonna ask you to do is when we are off, link to them.
Oh, I can link them
underneath the video on Facebook on the New Haven Independent page.
I got you.
Stella will link to all of these organizations.
Yeah.
So besides that, go ahead.
People Against Police Brutality, CT Bail Fund, CT Core Now, Justice for Jason. They have a Instagram, and Justice for Floyd CT, which is an Instagram that is going to post when the next marches are going to be, different information around what is going on in Connecticut around Justice for Floyd and what's happening right now.
And for just as a reminder for people in Connecticut, Jason Negron was the young man who was killed in police custody in Bridgeport about 3 years ago. So he was 16 years old. And so that's what Justin for Jason is about. Mm-hmm. I think for me, when I think of
Mubarakah,
I think what white people need to do is definitely keep showing up. That's number one. The second thing that I think white people need to do is talk to white people.
Yeah.
So what we know about people changing their ideals, changing their philosophy, changing their mode of thinking is they are more likely to change when they are engaged in discussion by people who look like them. Right. Mm-hmm. So they've done research studies and surveys on white people who have changed political philosophies and asked them, what was it that made you change from Democrat to Republican, from supporting this particular candidate to supporting this particular candidate? And the answer that was most prevalent is conversations with family members, right? So this is absolutely essential, not just showing up, right? So I commend my white friends who are posting on social media and they've told me I've had people unfriend me, right? So because you have to put something on the line, you have to be willing to risk something. You have to be willing to lose something. And that may mean straining relationships. That may mean people unfollowing you on social media, but that's a part of being anti-racist. As they say, it is no longer okay for you just to say, I am not a racist. You have to say, I am anti-racist. I am doing the work to get rid of racism. Talk about what white privilege is, because sometimes it's not just about, oh, I have an aunt that supports Trump. It goes deeper than that. Something happened, or some type of mental shift she had, or mental or philosophy that she had before Trump was a candidate that made her support him when he became a candidate. Part of that, or one of the most common thing, is not believing white privilege exists, not believing that racism exists, that believing that Black and brown people have the same opportunities as everybody else.
Right.
None of those things, none of those ideas can stand with anti-Blackness, right? So if you are a white person or a non-Black person, having conversations, I've been invited to have conversations in the Muslim community about anti-Blackness in the Muslim community. I don't have the emotional fortitude to explain to people how to practice their religion. Like, I just don't have the emotional fortitude for that. And I'm completely honest about that. I don't have the emotional fortitude to explain to white people how not to be racist.
Yeah, I would like to see more Muslims out there. I think that there are Muslims out there, but I think that there should be, I would love to see a solidarity of Muslims, a slew of solidarity of Muslims. And when we're talking about like our responsibility as Muslims to the world, and what we're called to do is to be, I feel like, protectors of this earth, and protectors, just like, just being protectors.
We are supposed to be the example, or we're supposed to follow the example of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And
I wonder,
he was the mercy to all of humanity.
Mercy.
And so we should seek to be the mercy of all of humanity. And not just us as Muslims, but I think that should be the goal for everyone, right? So
100%.
Even as a white person, it's not, so I saw a really interesting, and these are things that I think that needs to happen in the white community and the brown community. When you say, I can't remember what business it was, but they said, we want Black people to know, they posted on their social media, that we stand and support and have always supported the Black community. And somebody responded, which I thought was so genius. They said, thank you. Now I would love to see a picture of your board of directors. Right. So you can't come out and say that you are supporting Black and brown communities, and you've always supported Black and brown community, when you have a board of directors, or you have a head of an organization and everybody is white. That is correct. Or you have 10 people and you have one person of color. You just have what we call the token person of color, right? So if white people and non-Black people is serious about joining the fight against anti-Blackness and anti-racism, start in your circle. Have those conversations with your family members. I think also have those conversations with, when you're Arab and you're with your friend and they're calling the Black person an abdi, a slave, speak up. When you're in your circles you are voting on, or you're hiring somebody who's going to take a position of leadership, pick a person of color. Even if it takes more work. Because it's not like, and let me say, it's not like we ain't qualified. That's true. As a demographic, Black women are one of the most educated demographics in the United States. I think
also, as a young professional, I think that there's this expectation also that as young Black professionals, something that I'm experiencing now is I'm realizing I'm not perfect. I don't know how to do the professional thing. That's not my specialty. I come from organizing. I come from community-based stuff. I come from a space where I'm allowed to be in my space. But I also think we should have more access to training young Black professionals. And being in the nonprofit industry, I noticed that there isn't a lot of access. There isn't, the systems that are in place in nonprofit organizations don't aid young Black professionals to be successful in the environment because it's rooted in white supremacy. And that is a conflict I've had constantly in conversations I've had constantly within the organizations that I'm in, because I know that I'm not perfect. I know that I'm not there, but Black folks are constantly asked to be literally the most exemplary, exponentially, whatever the heck, you have overly qualified person.
So within your generation, you are still expected to be twice as good, for half the reward.
So I think that there's that. So that's a whole other conversation. But ultimately, I feel like I hear your sentiment. But for me, like, listen, bruh, talk to your family, do your little thing, do a little hoopla. At the end of the day, I'm the mayor, Maryland. His name is Bill de Blasio,
New York mayor.
The New York mayor. His daughter left the house on some. Yo, she said, "Dad, you ain't getting it. Bye." Like, I'm sorry, that was the most dope situation. I was just like, it gets to a point where you have the privileged and the elites, children running out your house, not trying to come at you, saying, "Bro, Black lives matter." When you're not doing enough, your kids go out and do the work and you're not doing.
I have to say that is one of the things that I am proud about in your generation.
Yeah.
I feel like your generation is really stepping up to the plate. When I say, I mean like 20, 30-year-olds, they're really stepping up to the plate. I think social media has a lot to do with it. Whereas before social media, people could claim, before the internet and social media, people could claim ignorance, right? They could claim, I don't know. But now anything you want to know is literally a Google search away. It's a 2-minute Facebook video or 2-minute YouTube video. There is no excuse, which is also too the reason why I don't feel like Black and brown people need to explain to white people or to non-Black people what they need to do. Google it. Read a book.
That's true. There's a lot of books about it.
You just have to put the effort and energy if you truly want to be an ally.
Can I also say that why are young people leading the movement? I just had this thought in my head. And I've been having this conversation with Stan and having a lot of conversations. I think that why are young people out here? I think young people have been out here. I think young people have been leading the movement because at the end of the day, we're doing this for our generations. I think we've come into it like, our ancestors done the work to give it to us, to our ability to have it or not have it or set us up for it. And it's our duty. It is our duty to sustain it. Because we talk about the life and the pursuit of happiness and the freedom of the American dream, but we're not willing to fight for it. We're not willing to fight to sustain it. You can't expect that I think there's this expectation that we're owed that. And it's clear that we're not. And I think young people know that. And young people want to live in a world where we can have that. I feel like that's a weird way to say it. It's been our time. We've been doing this. I'm sorry. I just gotta say, when I feel like, whatever. Honestly, I see slight intergenerational things, but I think there is a generational gap because I feel like I haven't seen, I don't know. I just feel like young people have been doing the work.
Let me tell you from my perspective, the reason why I think young people have been doing the work and young people have been stepping up is that the action has always been done by young people. Young people have the energy, they have the fire in them. When you look at the civil rights movement, it was young people who were at the counters. It was young people who was marching. It was young people. Martin Luther King.
What are y'all older folks doing?
That we were organizing, working in the back, advising, helping. And 50s, we believe this idea of if you work twice as hard, then you will be recognized. Be so good that people can't ignore you. Get education. Black women are the most educated women in the entire United States, and we still get paid 56 cents on the dollar of a white man. So I think the new generation is looking back and saying, being twice as good is not getting us equality.
Right.
Getting an education, even if we're more educated than our white counterpart, is not getting us equality. So I think that your generation is realizing that, you know what? We have to do something else now.
We've realized. Listen, the jig is up. I think that for me, I think when we have these conversations, I think it's important for us to talk about it in ways of inevitable liberation. I think that's what the difference is, that now when I move through my activism, when I move through everything, I see everything that's going on, I'm like, this is going to be a fight. And that doesn't mean that we don't fight and we don't press and we don't go hard. We don't roll up on some Old Town Road stuff, which I love to see. I think it was in Texas with the horses, bro. That was powerful. And so when I see that, it's more than a protest at this point. It's more than a protest. This is more than a protest. This is more than a protest.
So we could definitely have this conversation
forever.
but we have just a minute left to the show.
1 minute?
Yes. So I want to thank you for tuning in. Remember, we're live every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. here on 103.5 FM, New Haven's home for community radio. I'm Mubarakah Ibrahim. Thank my guest, Selwa Abdul-Sabor, for joining me today. And until next week, be a voice and not an echo.